Hi, everybody. Paul Drabick here. It's been a interesting week and a busy week. And I'll tell you why this episode is called Courage is Contagious. It seems as though I've had a little bit of an impact, which it's funny because that's exactly what I've been trying to do with this campaign. You see, all of a sudden, there are people that are out there in government positions commenting on some of the things that I brought up. And I think it was me all along that said, perhaps our mayor and our village council should be speaking up, should be using their platform to call out the fact that we've had two pedophile teachers slash coaches get arrested at one of our high school in the last 3 years, that we have a park district that is violating our freedom of speech and relegating people to little squares within parks if they want to exercise free speech. That we have a library that is propagandizing children with cartoon porn books and many other issues. And so I think it's kind of interesting that all of a sudden some of these people are speaking out about this stuff. We have the mayor and a couple village council members that have said something. But I want to give kudos to one of the candidates who finally has said something, Matt Novak. Matt Novak came out the other day and spoke on a video about how he didn't agree with children being exposed to these cartoon porn books in the library, or that the park district is violating our free speech. And this all stemmed from when I had started calling these things out a week or so ago. And I had suggested, well, maybe our elected officials, if they were responsible leaders, should say something about the fact that WGN covered that pedophile teacher story. And that's the second time in 3 years that has happened. Or that Downers Grove was on the cover of the Chicago Sun-Times for the free speech violation thing. And then I put out a Facebook post on one of these books that showed that it was targeted at 4 to 8-year-olds and described a explicit sexual situation. Now that was in print. But the funny thing was, I went back to the library and went to that kids section where my 4 and 2-year-old play regularly. And I decided to look at where that book is located. And you know what? I found some other books. I found some books that were quite disturbing. Let's see. One of them, here you go. How do you make a baby? Interesting title for a book that would be available to kids 4 to 8, 4 to 10, whatever, children, adolescent children. And you can see here there's cartoon images, so it's clearly targeted at a child. And let's get right into it. Oh, well, what do you got here? Interesting. To get even closer, they take off their clothes and hug. And then you see two naked cartoon people, which I had to cover up because these pictures that I posted on Facebook were removed by Facebook because they were too graphic for Facebook. Let's look at the next one. Oh, that's nice. Okay. When Papa's penis is in Mama's vagina, they're as close as two people can be. And I'll let your imagination run wild with what's behind the two red boxes. Again, targeted at adolescents, children as young as 4, running around the library. Now we'll move to the next picture, and here you go. Focus on the one on the right. That is the act. There we have insertion. Having sex is also called making love or having intercourse. Who is having sex here, it asks. For 4 to 8-year-olds, this is... Who needed this when they were a kid at 4 to 8? Who remembers being interested in sex at 4 to 8? This is bizarre. It's creepy. It's perverted. It is perverted. cartoon porn for kids. Okay. And then, of course, we have another scene here in the bottom left. It's just egregious. I have another one here. Was I in Mama's stomach too? Okay. And then, boring, I said. I don't think so, Dad said. He smiled and gave Mom a kiss. And now, how does the baby get in the stomach? I asked. And so you move from a scene with a mother, father, and daughter to naked pictures of mommy and daddy having sex. When both consent, when both consent, adults like to touch each other in the places where they are different, explained Dad. The man likes to caress the woman's breasts and vagina. The woman strokes the man's penis. The penis becomes big and very stiff. Then the man pushes his penis into the woman's vagina and he keeps moving in and out. It's a nice feeling. The most beautiful part happens when the man's semen flows into the woman's vagina. Afterward, the two are mostly tired and they snuggle together and fall asleep. What in the name of God is wrong with these people? They think that it's appropriate to publish cartoon pornographic books for kids. Why do we need this? My parents didn't need this. Turns out I figured out what sex was without cartoon porn. Go figure. Here's another one, making a baby. And I just want to show this. It's got this creepy scene of these these men in the shower with a little boy. Sure, one of them could be their dad, but I have a 4-year-old and that looks to be a young boy. I'm not showering naked with my son with another man. That's for sure. And I don't want another man, even if they're my friend, to see my kid naked. This is weird. This is creepy. And it's in the kids section of our library. All right. So, like I said, kudos to Matt Novak for coming out and speaking about this. And I think he was very, brave to do so. And you know what? Like I said, courage is contagious. Because I spoke out about it, and now all of a sudden, other people are speaking out about it. Almost as if that was my goal. Almost as if the people who have been backing me have wanted their leaders to do all along. Crazy. But you know what? There is a commissioner or two who has spoken out about these things as well. And we should probably take a look at what some of them have said. So here's Leslie Sadowski-Fugit. She's a village commissioner in Downers Grove. Let's hear what Leslie has to say. There's been a lot of talk about inappropriate books at the library. I strongly believe these books are vital and need to be on the shelves for young people nearing puberty. Really? They need to be? They need to be. So we're obligated as a society to put child cartoon porn in the kids section, according to Leslie. As a type A, I, of course, purchased these books well before my child even turned 4 or 5 to anticipate these questions so I would have them ready the instant she asked. But not everyone has my neuroses. Honestly, thank goodness for them. It's hard to start these conversations, and books can be incredibly helpful conversation starters and visual aids. If parents do not have these at home, they will turn to the library for help. And if we as adults don't make them a big deal, neither do our kids. So you had to have these books in order to answer questions about sex for your daughter. You didn't know the answers already? You needed cartoon porn books? Huh? What? Moving on. I've already gone through the 2 puberty books with my daughter, and she fully understands how periods work. that they are suspended during pregnancy and claims she is fine being resigned to having one because kids seem like a lot of work. They sure are, kid. Weird. Weird. Let's move on. In discussing the female organs as pictured in her puberty book, we did briefly discuss how babies are conceived a while ago. However, after hearing the word sex in a song this morning, whoops, she asked what the word meant. I mean, given the event happening today, could the timing be any better? So out it comes. It's not the stork, which, of course, I have on hand with, oh no, these scary pictures and accurate terminology. Yes, sarcasm detected. Thanks, Leslie. I think we do all kind of need to know when you're being sarcastic, because I can't tell what you're being ever besides scary. You see, our children can handle these discussions. Okay, I'm done. Our children? Our children, huh? Spoken like a true Marxist. These people want to use government to introduce their ideology, and they're doing it for your kids now. All right? Our children, they ain't your children, Leslie. You sex up your own kid. Have at it. And perhaps you could do that on the free market with Amazon. I don't have the ability to ban any books in the free market, but I don't understand why I have to subsidize your depravity with my tax dollars at the library. You want to sexualize your kid, go right ahead. I think it's wrong, but it's not my place how to tell you to parent your kid. But it is a concern for the taxpayer when the library is purchasing cartoon porn books with their money. I think that the taxpayer has a legitimate beef to raise there. And yet, we're called book banners. I'll get to that. So we have another village commissioner / candidate for village commissioner in Chris Gilmartin. And he has this he has this long post on Facebook. I'm only going to show you a couple snippets because he tends to this guy's a total narcissist, and he tends to just drone on. He wrote a book. So here he says, the irony here is that those proposing to remove books or stop programming because they are inappropriate for children are the same who cry about free speech. Oh, we cry about free speech, do we, Chris? Yeah, God forbid people are worried about their First Amendment right being violated. I am not an attorney nor profess to be an expert in constitutional law, but it would appear that the Supreme Court has ruled that no book can be removed from a public library based on moral objection, because that would be a violation of the First Amendment PICO. The PICO decision further seems to support the idea that government officials, such as village boards or library trustees, cannot remove materials to suppress certain viewpoints. Okay, so this is the argument that drives me insane, right? I've heard this online from so many people. Why should you be able to violate First Amendment rights? So let me ask everyone, including Chris, I'd like to hear the answer to this. Whose First Amendment rights are being violated if the books are removed? Let me rephrase. Who is exercising their First Amendment rights when a cartoon porn book is introduced into the kids section of the library? I'd love to know the answer to that question, because it is the government, right? The librarian, the bureaucrat who introduces the cartoon porn book into the library, into the kids section of the library, right? So is that free speech being exercised? I think there's another word for it. You know what I think that word is? Propagandizing. Propagandizing. Because it's not the taxpayers who had asked for their money to be spent on cartoon porn books to be introduced into the kids section of the library, Chris. It was the government who put them there with authority. I don't care what the Supreme Court ruled about libraries and free speech. The actions are done by the government. The action is that they purchased cartoon porn books, then they placed them into the kids section of the library. That's not free speech. That's propaganda. That's introducing propaganda. Free speech is for the citizens. The First Amendment is for the citizens. Folks, anytime somebody from the government tells you that an institution has a right, what they actually mean is authority. Institutions do not have rights. Institutions or the government has authority. And what has happened here is that we have a radical Marxist library director who has been introducing pride, LGBTQ, and sexualized material into the children's section and programs like Pride Story Hour for 2 to 6 year olds or Drag Queen Bingo for 7 to 12 year olds into children's lives in the library of the Downers Grove Public Library. And it is gross. It is weird that people, not only people, but commissioners on the village council would support cartoon porn. Let's see what else our narcissistic friend Chris Gilmartin has to say. Then there's one candidate running in the race for village council, someone who routinely claims that there is rampant crime at the library. There isn't. And that materials within its walls sexualize children. They don't. Well, I've never said there was any crime at the library. What I have said was that there's safety issues. And I will take Chris's comment there to say that he supports lewd conduct in the library. Chris Gilmartin, I think, supports indecent exposure at the library. Chris Gilmartin supports an 8-year-old boy being videotaped in the library. Chris Gilmartin supports homeless men pleasuring themselves in the library. I'm assuming from this comment. I'm not putting words in your mouth, Chris. I'm just assuming that these are things you support. You say there's no crime there. I never said there was crime. But you seem to think that there's no safety issues because you have said that before. So I'm just going to assume that you're okay with these things. You're okay with these things being around our children. You said that the materials within its walls sexualize children. They don't. Oh, so I guess, Chris, you underwrite the cartoon porn books targeted at our children in the kids section of the library. So Chris Gilmartin sounds like he supports cartoon porn books for children. Okay. Well, I'm glad that we could establish what Chris's positions are. Let's go on. He also used his podcast as a platform for derogatory comments toward a library volunteer and local pastor and the mayor and other council members and the school board and the teachers. But I am sure you have seen the video that is making the rounds. Pretty disturbing stuff. Pretty disturbing. I mean, kind of like cartoon porn books for kids in the kids section. And you know what else is kind of disturbing? I'll tell you. I did object to library taking on a social work intern that happened to be a pastor at the Methodist Church. And the reason I did so was because that pastor held a transgender Santa Claus event at their church, indoctrinating children with transgender ideology. Yes, I'm glad I could come on here and further my position that I am against that. I am against indoctrinating children with transgenderism, Chris. Guilty as charged. So I'm glad I could clear that up. And God forbid I criticize the mayor or the council or the school board or the teachers who are sitting in positions of authority while a second pedophile teacher gets arrested at the same high school in 3 years, while they're on the cover of the Chicago Sun-Times because the Park District is violating people's free speech, while there are cartoon porn books in the library, and nobody says something until now because he thinks it's getting close to crunch time for the election and he has to justify his positions. Well, people are tired of elected officials not just admitting that there are problems out there. People are tired of the fake decorum and the narcissists like Chris Gilmartin who just like to hear themselves talk, or the crazy people like Leslie Stowski Fugit who will go on social media as a village commissioner and advocate for cartoon porn books to be available to their children and politicize their own child in that Facebook post to justify it. These people are the leaders of your community. These people like Chris Gilmartin, who is endorsed by radical Marxist politicians like Ann Stava Murray, who would put forth a bill to criminalize parents who would deny their children be socially transitioned. That's a thing. That's a thing. And he happily took that person's endorsement. Or radical Marxist communists like Sean Casten, who will vote for boys in girls' locker rooms, boys in sports, who will beg FEMA and the federal government for $20 million for illegal aliens. So a guy who's not even representing the citizens, but representing illegal aliens. So these are your leaders, Downers Grove. These are the people asking for your vote. And these are the people calling people like me who are calling out this insanity radical. But the truth is, what I've described here is radical. It sure is radical. It's people supporting cartoon porn books for kids who sit on your village council. That's a real thing. Believe it or not. And Chris and other people will say I'm fear mongering. I guess the Democrats have a new word for the truth, because I don't know what fear mongering about just telling people, hey, look, you got 2 pedophiles in your high school in 3 years. Your local government is violating your free speech, and you got cartoon porn books in your library. All of it's true. Is it fear mongering? I mean, I guess for people who want to be disingenuous narcissists and ask for your vote. But I think that people like that are dangerous. I really think they're dangerous because they don't care about your rights. They don't care about constitutional rights. They have one ideology. It's power. That's all he cares about. They care about themselves. They care about getting power. They don't care about your rights. They don't care about your children being sexualized. They don't care about your library propagandizing to sexualize your children. They want to talk down to you and tell you you shouldn't be worrying about it. Or our children can take it. Well, it's a good thing, Leslie and Chris, you don't speak for the rest of us. But I'll tell you what, I do speak for a lot of people who are tired of this garbage. They're tired of you, and they're going to vote for me.